Can you guess which of these rolls was made with yeast versus baking soda and vinegar? Dramatic pause. These were made with yeast. This is the exact same recipe, except for I substituted 1 teaspoon of yeast with half a teaspoon baking soda and half a teaspoon apple cider vinegar. When making the dough actually looks basically the same until you start doing stretch and folds for the yeast dough. Then it starts to look different. After baking, there's a few differences we can observe. The yeast has more uniform color. This one looks more like a biscuit. These two look very similar in height, but then if you look at other ones, it's like real diff. Also, the tops look very different. I baked them at the exact same temperature and both had a water bath to create steam, but you can see some darker and lighter colors while this is a little bit more uniform. What about the inside? Bubble-wise, they look very similar to me, except for yeast has more of them. That contributes to the overall softness. The yeast one is a lot softer than the baking soda one, which again feels more like a biscuit. When I smell these little babies, yeast, this one smells like bread. This one you can kind of smell the baking soda. Taste-wise, they're both delicious, but they taste totally different. This dough proofed a total of about 2.5 hours before baking, so it tastes a lot more like yeast, and it tastes a lot more kind of that classic bread flavor. Super delicious, much more airy, and a bit larger. This I mixed together and put straight into the oven to bake. Genuinely, it tastes like a biscuit, but like an airy one. Even though these use very similar ingredients, we can see the impact of our single-cell microorganism yeast has on the overall dough process. After this experiment, I can also see why for biscuits, a lot of times we paint these with butter or put a little extra flour on there to give it some texture. Something about this very flat texture, not as appetizing. Similar with the dough made with yeast. It looks pretty, but you kind of wish there were a little bit of like texture with flour or something like that. So in a pinch, if you have a recipe that's meant for yeast and you don't want to waste your efforts, you can switch it out 1-to-1 with half baking soda, half acid. But if you can, try to use our yeast friends because you'll end up with a fluffier, more aromatic roll or bread. Hope you enjoyed this science experiment. Hope you have a good day.